Around this campfire sits over 125 years of combined Marine infantry, scout sniper, and Marine raider experience. This includes over a dozen decorations for heroism and valor in combat, as well as a handful of Purple Hearts. Here are their stories and perspectives on lethality and survivability in combat.
What, you guys have anything new in the works for the AT4? You guys were talking about maybe making some updates or changes.
Yeah, definitely.
Modernization a bit.
For sure. There's been a bunch of stuff going on for a long while. On the warhead side, obviously, that's making sure we stay relevant, improving the ability to get through walls, get through armor, what have you. There's 6 different kinds right now. We'll probably not do more kinds, but keep an improvement. Those individual warheads will be always a focus. And then also looking at how we can make it lighter, because fiber technology's come a long way since 1986, that's for sure.
Right.
What about night vision?
Oh, well, you talk like night capability for the AT4, because that's always been something, I mean, we've always been deficient there, right? For a while we had kind of a big bracket. We were using it all for some type of solution, but one of the things I know SAAB has been looking at and Aimpoint's been discussing with them is kind of a disposable red dot to go on there, right? Because with the new night vision devices Marines are running around with, they'll outrun the capability of our shoulder launch munitions. So we don't need a separate night aiming solution, we just need a passive night aiming solution. That's a red dot, night vision setting, you know, coupled with our what is now our current night vision devices, right? So that's the answer, and that's simple, cost effective, and effective from an employment standpoint, right? I mean, it increases the already impressive hit probability up over 90%. You know, so that's significant.
And you always run into a lot of people that are still fascinated by iron sight technology, where I've got a line of clear tip. If I've got a kid that's scared or out of gas and has to shoot a disposable munition for the first time in combat, I need a kid to have first round effects. And he needs to have a weapon system that he can trust. Not let me just roll the dice and say, I hope I hit this thing.
So you guys are talking, you're trying to reduce a couple pounds, right, with some fiber technology on the AT4. We're looking at doing a red dot sight on it. Increases the hit probability about 20%, right?
Yeah,
so
easily.
It frees up decision-making space.
Definitely.
Right, and that's something we don't really talk about, and not a ton of people really understand it, right? But the red dot being an emphatic signal versus, you know, what we've historically had on not just the AT4, right? Every weapon system, you know, the iron sight, the mechanical solution. So, you know, going on a little bit of a tangent, right? That's important. You know, the average person of average intelligence, right? So most of us sitting here, we process about 700 complex thoughts in a moment. But in a critical stress environment, that our brain's ability to do that, it drops to about 2 complex thoughts per moment. So one of those things, right, needs to be focused on the threat. The other one should not be executing the mechanical process of lining up iron sights, right, which we don't do really on the majority of our weapon systems anymore. You know, we have optics on everything. So the AT4, you know, certainly gained some ground from doing that, I think.
For sure. I mean, the technology is there.
Munition, right?
Yeah. It's going to be big that you can get anybody to hit under any conditions.
Right. And I mean, and don't get me wrong, right? The AT4 already outshines its competitors in the hit probability category. But, you know, if you can add 20% capability to anything, you know, you'd be silly not to do it, right? That's a significant increase in lethality, survivability. So.
Yeah, and just being able to work at night. I mean, that goes a very long way.
Right.
And of course, this comes with a Picatinny, and everybody likes to put a laser on everything. So, hey, we got a good Picatinny rail. You zero your PEC. Now I've got a laser capability on a disposable munition. For all those young users out there, just make sure you take the PEC off once you're done with the disposable. You know, the big thing, and that's a reoccurring theme, is to always lighten the soldier's load, so to speak, but in our case, lightening the Marine's load. If a Marine's going to carry something into combat, it has to be something that's going to allow them to be lethal and also survivable, and also to help them to gain an efficiency. Marines shouldn't be carrying any type of weight that isn't going to aid in them reducing an objective and bringing all their brothers and sisters home. So I think that it's important to mention that if a system's not doing that and it's not growing and getting better, you probably shouldn't be carrying it. And there's plenty of experiences about the AT4 around the campfire tonight.
So, Gulf War, young corporal, freaking cocky little kid, knows everything, right? Company gunnery, ammo clerk, or ammo tech come to see us and give me a new weapon system. I don't even know what it is, right? He hands it to me, and I break out my Spyderco. I'm going to cut it open, the plastic, and the company gunner goes, "What are you doing, Zickfoos? Put that away. We're going to turn those things in 2 weeks." I'm like, "What?" "Gunny, I got to know what this thing is, right?" It's an AT4, right? I've never freaking seen one. I've heard of them, but I never got to shoot one. I figured as a sniper, I'm going to use my max award of my weapon system. I'm never going to shoot one anyway. So Gunny took off. I pulled it back out of the seat, cut the plastic off, and read the instructions on it. So, step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way through it. Actually, went through the whole thing. Put it in my shoulder, ergonomically correct, fit in my hands perfectly. Hey, this thing's pretty easy to use. And,
Let's go find something to blow up.
So supposedly somebody shot an AT4 and a camel in the Gulf War, so I don't know what happened to that, but that's another story. But anyway, so, the ground war kicked off. It was like the third day, the fog came in. It's black as black as night out there. We had the regimental commander, RCT-1, called the backup battalion commander and S3 officer. And so the S3 officer rode with me, and the battalion commander rode with another vehicle. Shot an azimuth off a freaking compass, moved back 10 clicks to the regimental headquarters, and was in regimental headquarters. Cooks, candlestick makers, all those guys are in there. Two APCs come rolling in. So grab 50 cal sniper rifle, put a couple rounds in those things. Then we go out into the fog. We drive out into the fog, looking to see what else is out there. And sure enough, there's 2 tanks sitting there waiting for us. So I'm like, I'm in a Humvee.
That's in addition to the APCs.
Yep. So the APCs were gone. They were destroyed right there on the spot. Unleaded gas in them. They caught on fire. Those guys gave up really fast if they didn't get burnt up. And then, so me and my driver, another guy, and his driver, we drive out into the fog, and we end up running into 2 tanks. We back up out of there, go back to the regimental headquarters, say, "Hey, there's tanks coming in." And I grab an AT4 and an M9 pistol and run into the fog. Probably not the smartest move in the world.
I'll take care of this.
My buddy grabbed another, anti-tank weapon, and he ran with us. And, with the fog, I bet we could see 50, 60 yards maybe. I don't even know how far you got to be away from the AT4 to even make it go off, right? So I'm in there.
I'm about to arm it.
Right.
We shouldn't really know that. Does anybody know that?
Arms at 20.
We should know that.
So I was good then, right? So I can say
good.
Arms and 20.
So I'm sitting in there I'm like 30, 40 yards from this tank in the fog, and he can't see me. I can barely see him. So so again, never shot the AT4. First thing I do is read the instructions on the AT4, make sure I'm going to do it right.
So you're 20 yards from an enemy tank.
It's probably more than that. It's probably like 30 or 40, maybe 50.
Oh, yeah, okay. So you're 30 yards from an enemy tank, and you're like...
Slight danger close.
Reading the instructions.
Shoulder strap.
No, but the shoulder strap is not the first thing you do, so I gaffed the shoulder strap off, right? So I was like, I'm going to skip that step, and it was a mistake because the shoulder strap puts it in your freaking shoulder perfectly to set it in ergonomically correct in your system where your hand sits in the weapon system perfect. So now I'm rolling it around because I don't have the shoulder strap in, so that's what has to be the first step, even though it doesn't say that.
You're looking for the cocking lever?
Yeah. So it's actually the safety pin is the first one to freaking pull out. But anyway, so I get it all figured out, get it rolled in, got my hands in the perfect place, I launch the rocket, hits the tank, freaking, whatever distance it was, 50, 60 yards. And the second tank decides he's going to shoot at me. He's got a 12.7 machine gun on top of his tank. He sees me. He lets a freaking, 20, 30 round burst at me with a freaking 12.7 machine gun. I'm eating sand.
You're getting real small.
Getting as small as possible.
Thinking about life decisions.
My buddy hits the other tank with the other freaking the rocket, and we roll back. The whole time we're rolling back, we're running back 100, 200 yards back to regiment headquarters. He kept on looking at me, go, "You all right, brother?" I go, "What do you mean, am I all right?" "Yeah, I'm all right." "You all right? You all right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm good." And I get back to the rear, and freaking, he looks at me, he goes, "Man, you're bleeding, dude." I go, "What do you mean?" "Freaking, your face is bleeding." I go, "What?" I got scope bite from the AT4. It's a recoilless rifle, right? It's not supposed to smack me in the head. So that's what happens.
It might have been frag from that tank.
I should have got a Purple Heart from it, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so we killed. But the short story is, we killed the 2 APCs with their forward element, and then we killed the two tanks. One of the tanks had the brigade commander in it. It turned out to be the largest tank battle in Marine Corps history that day. And it still is, I think, still the largest tank battle.
And you took out the brigade commander.
One of us took the brigade commander. I don't know which one it was, which tank he was in.
Well, maybe.
Either he was dead or freaking took his communication out and he couldn't use it. So
That's wow.
So first tanks came in, shot I think over 50 tanks and APCs that day. It was like 2 or 3 hours of fight with tanks, but we started it.
You said, "Don't worry, boys, I set the tone."
That didn't do anything.
Took out a couple for you this morning.
No, I didn't.
Right.
But I did, I tell that story all the time, because I say, you got to know your gear, weapons, and equipment. If you don't know those 3 things, you're all screwed up, right? Yep. So, and then I'll add personnel in there also. But that's another life lesson I learned later in life.
Well, we were talking about the simplicity of systems earlier, right? You never got in a class on an AT4.
Nope. So it was easy to figure out.
An AT4 outside of maybe like pub or something, right? But
at that point, I've only heard about the AT4, and I figured it out all by myself. My GT freaking score, freaking 100 and whatever it is. And reality is freaking the steps allowed me to be successful on the battlefield, to protect Marines and sailors on the battlefield.